The next episode of The Commercial Break starts now.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. And I do have to ask you a question. As a long-suffering Orioles fan, can you believe where you are right now?
It allows me to weep publicly. It's really unbelievable. I mean, but and it took a while. I mean, partly I was enraged part of the time because there were like our catcher should have been up sooner, and they were fooling around, and then also could you hire still even now, can you pay for some pitching? Huh? Can we at least pretend that we're in it? It's like literally you're going to continue to do this. And what's really amazing is that they've screwed that fan base over and it's not been, I mean, it's been long, but not in terms of other teams that have been really, and these guys, you could still get like a $10 or $20 or $30 package that allows you to go to all the games in August. And
that's incredible.
That's insane. Yeah, we live in Atlanta where our Pornhub overlords charge every dollar, then have the audacity to call it the Atlanta Braves when it's actually 30 miles outside of the city center. It's fucked up. But
It is.
Yeah, it's near the Cobb. It's right over there near the Energy Center. It's actually across the highway from the Energy Center, which is a great location if you're, white and rich enough to afford those seats. But, it lacks, in my opinion, it lacks the character of the old stadium, especially the Ted Turner Stadium that was built for the Olympics, which was just an incredible place to see baseball. And, whatever. It's all homogenized and corporatized and big dollars at this point. And I guess...
Well, yeah, but they also put that Cobb Energy Center out there, which they said, you're going to perform out there now, as opposed to, you go to a city and you want to perform. I am no interest in performing in the suburbs, you jackasses.
Yeah.
It's why I got out of the suburbs. You live there for a while, and then that's enough. And
in the city,
you kind of realize, no. And so, you want to perform, which I did for a while. I've got to perform, and I was at the House of Blues there, and we did a couple of the other theaters downtown. And then now I'm out at the Cobb.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So right about this. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful place. If you're going to go see opera or the fucking orchestra or, Frankie Valli and the Dead Tops or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's not the place you want to see Lewis Black or your favorite, rebirth 90s band that once was popular and not popular again. And that's what they do. But, they have to make money somehow. So I guess that's where they put it. And Atlanta is a perfectly lovely city with lots of great theaters, with lots of great history. And they just keep building more further and further away and calling it Atlanta. But that's a rant, and you're better at that than I am.
But I'm glad to hear it, because it really did. It's one of those things I've wondered, you go out there. I know I've got a few friends who live down there, but you don't really. It's kind of
that's what we all thought when the Braves Stadium was announced in Cobb County. We were like, are they the Cobb County Braves now, or are the Marietta Braves, or are they just still the Atlanta Braves? But you can't argue with success, and we are spoiled with success. As a long-suffering Cubs fan until a couple of years ago, I feel you on Baltimore. I have to ask you a question right off the get. You put an Instagram reel, a YouTube short out that I saw a couple of months ago. Maybe it was like back in April or something, where you said, "Hey, politicians, can you give us a fucking break for the summer? Don't say anything. Go to do your barbecues and leave us all the fuck alone until."
I love that.
How's that going in your estimation?
I did it again, and then I did it. And the other night I was performing in Cleveland, and I just launched into it. I mean, it's disgusting. And it starts with the fact that they go, "This is what enrages me." Well, we only have 100 days. Seriously. Okay, you've already added 100 days to Christmas. That didn't help. It's like, literally, do you not think we're capable? And if we need this much time, then there really is something wrong that we are picking people that we don't know. that there should be people on the table we already know. I mean, in part, when I was growing up, and now I'll sound like an aging fart. That when I was growing up, you knew these. I mean, Nixon, you knew, and he tried, and then he tried again, and then he won. And he won. These people kind of stayed in the loop. Now it's like, okay, gone. Romney, okay, gone. He's there for and in comparison, when you look in terms of what we're dealing with, really, you got rid of him?
Yeah.
He was kind of like the middle guy, you idiot. You fucking idiots. He's so solidly in the middle. And, except for whatever, we can argue, this, that, or the other, but basic, and you go, no.
He was a centrist and had long been known as a guy who works across the aisle and had worked across the aisle during his presidency to get some shit actually fucking done. Right. And, but we can argue up and down about, whether or not he's fit for the job or not fit. And I think it's a valid argument to have, right? But it was like one shitty performance. Good night, Joe. See you later. Talk to you later. You have a really interesting, Krissy and I were talking about this before you came on. I think we both remember you because of your long stint on The Daily Show. That's when we grew up. That's when our minds were blossoming. That's when we got interested in the world around us. And we were also cable kids, right? So we saw The Daily Show, Comedy Central.
And politics, really.
And politics. And that's when I became a super fan of yours. Like, if you were on The Daily Show, I needed to watch it. And it was appointment TV for me. But you were like a playwright, and you were in Jacob's fucking Ladder, which is one of the most fucked up movies I've ever seen in my entire life. What did you play in Jacob's Ladder? You were the doctor?
Yeah. I played the doctor, and one of the reasons, the hook, I think, that I'm in that, and stayed in that, but a lot of the times you get edited out, and it's a very small role. But there was a dog on the set, and it was a great dog, and they were paying the dog more than me, and some of the other actors. The dog was getting a lot every day, but the dog was going to be in the scene, and the thing is that they brought the dog in. Now the dog's a part of the movie. And the thing is Tim Robbins, who was the lead, didn't really like dogs. Or didn't want the dog around or whatever, but he doesn't like dogs. But apparently he didn't, or whatever. The dog was going to be in the scene. And he was in the tub, and I'm sitting there, and I went, this dog's going to be great in this. So I'm hanging out all day with the dog, and I'm going to be sure this dog likes me enough that he's going to be not a problem when we get in there. And he certainly wasn't going to be. He's a well-trained.
He's a professional.
More than me. He probably. And if you just watch that clip again, the best acting done in that clip is the dog, who's got, of all of us, has the most sincere look on it. Of all of us, the most commitment comes from the canine. And so that was how it ended up. I think that the clip stayed in the movie. And, because all they really needed was...
Yeah, I remember this scene in the movie. The guy's pouring ice on him, and he's freaking out, and the whole thing is going... They say never work with animals or children, but maybe in this case they helped out. Was that your first major motion picture role?
No, the first major motion picture role was...
that's
wow,
right.
that's a classic.
Yeah.
And if you look, and here's another one of those crazy things. Julia Taylor was I'm not sure if she still does, but was Woody Allen's casting person. And she's pretty remarkable, and she stays on top of things. And she approached me and a friend of mine who's passed away, who we had a place in New York that we did theater in. And he did music, I did, and I was writing plays and kind of hosting. And so she came in and basically said, you're going to be in a Woody Allen film at some point. You should know that. No, well, that's, like, oh, yeah, right, okay. And then the next thing I know, we're casting Hannah and her sisters. If you watch the scene that we're in, it's me. It's my first movie. It's Rusty's first movie. I believe John Turturro's in the scene. It's his first movie. There's like Julie Kavner. It's not her first, but it's but what's her name? Julia Louis-Dreyfus's her first movie. It's the scene where they're walking down the hallway. He's a writer for kind of Saturday Night Live or works on it. Woody does. Chris Clemens, who was in a bunch of things that you've seen on television, and we're all in that scene. And if you watch, pretty much there's about 8 of us.
Wow!
And it was everybody's first movie, and they're all people who went on.
When you got out of college, I read that you were a playwright and then you were working this theater. Is that the same theater you're talking about? You were there for like 5 or 6 years until it closed or got new management or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was, and also they kind of thought we were, it was unbelievable. My friend who's still, it's in its 46th year, in West Bank Cafe, and downstairs there was what would be called the cabaret space. I hate that word.
I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was really a theater space. Had about 100 seats. Had a bar, and we did, and the 2 owners that my friend Steve Olson called the Null and Void, who were the 2 owners of the place. They thought we were making a fortune downstairs.
That's a quick way to get. Well, my dad said, "Son, you're going to go to school and you're going to be a 1-act playwright." Yeah.
That's really. And, or you're going to go balsa wood planes. I mean, it's like so stupid. We were surviving. I mean, and it was kind of amazing because we did there was no place for at that point in time we started this in the early the early 80s, about 83, 84, and we had the actors who were there. I mean, James Gandolfini, one of his first performances was there. The writers are really
those are
Aaron
major
Sorkin,
names.
his first play. Alan Ball, True Blood, his first, American Beauty, all of his first work was done there, all of it. There's a number of other writers who are just straight up playwrights that you're known for playwriting, and we had everybody because nobody had. There was no place.
And so you were just a home for all of these burgeoning creative types that were doing playwrights. I mean, Aaron Sorkin, just one name, and you could say, "Wow, that was a hot success."
Yeah, and he actually went on. He was on CBS's Sunday Morning, and talked about the fact that he owed the success. That was the reason It was from that moment that he got his agent, and his agent got a few Good Men done on Broadway within a year. And so, but otherwise, it was nothing.
It was just it was kind of a dead scene in the 80s, right? It was all Studio 54 and really punk rock, CBGB, right?
Yeah. I mean, there were certain things, there were certain moments of certain plays that were done, but very little. And so we were this place. And what we did was, if somebody we worked on the premise, somebody comes in, they do something that's good, they recommend somebody great, and we would do them. And so a lot of it, we didn't, it was all about, and you bring the audience in, and these people wanted an audience, and they'd bring people in. And so when we were charging it's 100 years ago, but still we were charging $3, $5. We were not charging a ton, and we were paying our actors and actually cut we had a contract with
and so the Nolan Void thought that you were making $1 billion under their noses, and so they pushed you to give them more of a cut of the revenue, and you're like, well, shit, dude, I'm not making any. I'm living in a fucking studio apartment on the West End. Yeah,
they ended up firing the manager, who's now owner of the place, Steve Olson. They fired him because they thought he was making a hand over fist. So he moves. So the place gets wiped out because he moves up the the street where he bartends. Now we're all up the street drinking there, and the theater, nobody shows up. Nobody shows up to eat there because it really was and still is a place where you could walk in and see, Al Pacino, or you could see, any number of people, Robert Sean Leonard. I can go to Ethan Hawke. There's a ton of these people who would just hang out and eat there. And it's still one of those places because across the street there are a whole bunch of off-Broadway theaters, or off-Broadway really, and so it was really became kind of a classic institution, and right now they're in the midst of they just have not recovered from the pandemic, and they're trying to close it down.
That's a fucking scene. James Gandolfini, Aaron Sorkin, Ethan Hawke all hanging out having lunch at a 100-seat theater. Yeah. I guess that's just like the, kind of a snapshot in time, like so many stories that you hear about. I've never been lucky. I end up at a Chili's eating, fucking $5 shit-oritas or whatever. There's no Ethan Hawke or James Gandolfini sitting there.
No, it was really something. And it was just, it's that whole thing. It's like, you guys, look, the one thing you learn from, what you're doing in this business, what I'm doing in this business, you end up being successful because you're in the right place at the right time. And it's
absolutely
totally fucking timing. And it's really unbelievable because that's what occurred there. We just, you go in, we went, well, let's see if people want to do this. And then they all flood in. And so all of a sudden, Edie Falco is there. I kind of go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But you at the time don't know them. They're showing up on your stage and you're going,
let me ask you, because I think you're on to, I think you're absolutely right about this, is that most of success is timing. A little bit of talent, and also persistence, because if you're not there at the right time, but you keep chopping the wood, you may find yourself when the timber falls, right? I mean, that's just the way that it is. Like, we're 600 episodes into this. It didn't come easy, right? It didn't come easy, and I'm still, I hope there's lots of, wood to be chopped here, but I don't know. I'm getting old. I don't know.
Well, I read your history. It's true. You did, you went this and then we tried that. You go up all these
when you just, so you are writing, and do you find yourself, you're just so comically talented. I don't want to compare you to anybody because that's cheap conversation, but I do have to say, I put you in this, like, in the same regard as like a Pryor or a Carlin. You're a commentarian. You comment on the world around you in a very funny and unique way. Did you start doing stand-up while you were doing playwriting too? Were you doing that on the side?
I was doing it on the side. It was completely on the side. It was being done like some people collect stamps. I was doing stand-up. I mean, it was crazy. It was really crazy. I'm kind of going, I was doing it partly because it fascinated me, and it didn't matter. I mean, being a playwright, I really wanted to be a playwright, so I'd send the scripts out, and as I've said time and again, if you're writing a play, it was faster, I thought. I learned over time that if you actually put your play in a bottle, into a bottle, and took the bottle into the river,
you had a better chance.
Ocean, that somebody would find that faster and read it faster than any of the fucking theaters would do. So I did the stand-up in part too, so I could write something and get it out there. Because I'm waiting like 2 years for them to say, go fuck yourself, you're an idiot. This isn't going to work. We have no interest. And so it was a way in which I could do my writing. And I would go on stage and read stuff. Just to, and I'd read comic things that I wrote that were comic, and I'd comment. And I started asking, and then I started to work rooms that, nobody in their right mind would work. It was like, I wouldn't work comedy clubs. I tried, and they enraged me because it was like, well, you're not one of the first 15 who showed up. Well, you don't fucking want, you should let us know that, because I was performing once at Catch, a Rising Star, and the first time I performed there, this was the end of, I didn't go back. They wanted me to do, I was there 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock. I had a pretty good set. And I said, who do I talk to? They said, oh, no, you've got to be the first five that you've seen. And I went berserk.
Yeah.
I went, are you shitting me? And I'm broke at the time, and I have friends who are broke. Now I've put together enough money to have my friends come so that to see if they think I'm psychotic doing this. And so, but I'm putting out a small fortune as far as I'm concerned. I'm going broke to be there, and the person's not there. So I said, I'm not going to do that. So I found spaces around, in part like the West Bank eventually, where before I could go and just do stuff and not have to worry about, bringing people or doing anything. And as long as I wasn't making money, what difference did it make?
Yeah. And so are you just like chopping away at it? Is it, if you have such a unique style and a unique voice and a unique opinion, and that's probably just part of the DNA of who you are. But when you get, and I know we're fast forwarding a lot, but how did you get on the Daily Show? And when you get that, I think quite frankly, when I saw you for the first time, I was like, holy shit, this guy's on fire. Yeah. He's fucking funny and he's got something to say.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, at least in my brain, it takes a long time to just learn how to like tailor it in a way that's interesting, funny, and saying something.
Yeah, a lot of it came from working at the West Bank because I became comfortable on stage there because otherwise I was a wreck on stage. I mean, you got to relax. And I found that to be the toughest part. Especially, and so so I was introducing every show. So there was no, you take out the realm of, you don't have to worry about if you're funny. So you can now be funny. Because nobody expects you to be funny. So I started that way. And we would have a show at midnight on Saturdays that was free. And Rusty would play music, and he was the composer of the place, and he would do these songs that were hysterical and also straight stuff. I would do stand-up. There were Warren Light, who eventually won a Tony for his writing. He wanted a comic.
Exactly.
I wanted to be a playwright. Now, playwright, I'm the comic. It's really silly. He was a terrific comic. So they would come in, people would come in, and then we did it for free because it was Studio 54 time. So there were all these places around town where none of my friends, and especially actors and people in the business, couldn't get in. So the people would come pouring in there because it was free, and we would do these shows, and that was where I kind of honed the material. And I'd go on stage with just pieces of the newspaper. I'd have like 10 things that I ripped out of the newspaper and just go this.
You just comment on what you were seeing, and
then if something. Yeah, and then if it landed, I would follow it.
And probably because you were a playwright, because you had those writing skills and they were honed, and you were doing the reps on the writing, you could smell a punchline coming in your perspective, in your voice. So you would look at an article, you'd say, "Oh, I know where I can go with this," or "I know where I can go with that."
Yeah, and the one thing that's really interesting is that since then, and what I've learned, I write on stage. That's where I write. I don't sit at home. I'll take a note. There'll be something that really bugs me. It's like, and I'll write it down. Anything that angers me.
Sounds a lot like me.
Write it down. Yeah. So JD Vance, and now it's reached the point where there's no need to. I don't even need to. How do you get angry when it's it's a constant flow of bullshit? He's talking about showers happening. I mean, what? And we're supposed to take and then they're going, well, I can't believe they're still stuck on it. They're stuck on it
fucking
because
unreal.
It's insane.
Yeah. And what's more insane is that 30 years ago, this would have tanked any chance you had at a political career. But what's insane is the excuse-making bullshit and then the continuation of saying the same exact thing over and over again with different words. trying to pretend like I really didn't mean what I said, but by the way, let me say it one more time because I really did mean what I said. He's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and then folks with children should have more votes. That was the other one. That's really good. Yeah, folks who have children who don't even have the time to pay attention to what the fuck is out there should have more votes than the rest of us who don't have children and our noses are fucking.
As a guy who has many children, I will tell you right now, I shouldn't be allowed to vote. I don't. I'm just constantly upset at something, and I could go either way at any moment. I could write in Walt fucking Disney right now, and it probably would make sense to me. How did you get connected with the Daily Show? You were on early, I think, at Craig Kilborn years, right?
Oh no, I was
the first
on
week.
The first
wow.
week. The first week, and it started with we were in a studio without an audience, and Liz Winstead was the executive producer. She knew me; she was a comic. The great thing is that Liz, and she doesn't get the credit she should, and so I tout it all the time. She's the one who got the Comedy Central to buy this, and that's an extraordinary because I had done it I'd gone in to pitch, a political kind of news show.
It's Comedy Central.
What, are you kidding me?
It's ha-has on a Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah. But she got, so she got it sold. And she had an executive, one of the producers. She was the exec producer. One of the producers was Hank Gallo, who knew me. So both of them knew me. Right place, right time. They knew, like you were saying, they knew I had material. I had a ton of material. Nobody knew who I was. And I was now I'm working clubs. I'm outside of the West Bank, and I'm working clubs around town, and I'm just honing my act to try to make it so that taking it from this room where I was kind of like, oh, he's psychotic, but isn't he cute, to, oh, this, I can transfer this into kind of comedy clubs. And so they brought me in. And what we did the first 6-7 times was, until we got an audience, I would sit there and bring in stuff. And I would do, or if they had an idea, but mostly it was me. I'd come in, taking my material and try to put it into an editorial form. And I would just sit at the desk, and then I would do it because there was no audience. And then we'd do it again. And then they'd say, keep that, drop that, this will be good. Then I'd do it again. Great ending, great opening. Let's try to tighten up the middle. Do it 3 or 4 times, and then great, you got it. And that was the way we did it. And then they brought the audience in. Then I started writing it out. Hank helped me edit it, and some of the other writers came on board. And now it's on now we go to teleprompter. And so I'm reading it. And if you should get one of your children to learn this skill, which is to look at a screen and be able to read words.
It's very difficult. We have tried to do this in the studio. It's very difficult. It's not. It's a skill that becomes. It's like unnatural in every way, shape, or form.
Your eyes or something, and kind of just
Well,
Yeah, I find it's very easy. I mean, if I'd known this, I could have Jason been a fucking weatherman.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Weather guy.
Yes, please.
Dressed in a gorilla.
Weather guys, poor fucking weather guys. They don't do much but add, and they're always wrong, Louis. They're always fucking wrong. We have a guy here who's very famous. His name is Glenn Burns. He's as old as the sun. I mean, he's probably 102 years old. He looks great because of whatever, good genes, good doctors. I don't know, one of the two. But the guy is 100% wrong. Unless there's a tornado directly over your house, he'll let you know that 5 minutes afterwards. But he's but you watch him because he's the guy. He's like the Glenn Burns guy. You're like, oh, I trust him for what
Right.
reason? I don't know because he's always wrong. Yeah. When you get to the Daily Show and you have all of this exposure, and I know that Comedy Central was not at the time HBO or ABC or NBC, but it is quite a bit of exposure to a very fertile audience. That's the moment when all of a sudden you kind of take out your comedy career takes off? I have to imagine.
That was part of it. It was a combo of that. It was a combo of Dave Attell and I becoming the face of Comedy Central, because all of a sudden I'm doing, and he's on
Insomniac, Late Night with Dave Attell.
Insomniac.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that was
really a great show. Then I'm on. It was a real breakthrough. I mean, nobody thought it, but David was perfect. I'm doing this now. Now I'm doing specials, because now I got a ton of material, and I'm doing these half-hour specials. So that's getting it out there. And then we end up we become on Friday nights. They do interstitials, so there's a whole bunch of comics, and